All right, picture this: you're scrolling online and stumble across a pharmacy. Not just any pharmacy, though. This one's got people raving, not about like quick prescription fills or anything like that, but about how it's like changed their whole lives. Wild, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're diving into today: Pharmaprodia Compounding Pharmacy and this, well, kind of enigmatic Dr. Richard Nkwenti. See, we're used to pharmacy reviews being all complaints, insurance battles, long waits. Whew, but these, totally different. People driving for hours to get refills, claiming this Dr. Nkwenti and his, quote, unique approach gave him their lives back. I don't know about you, but color me intrigued. And it's not just a couple of good reviews. It's like everyone's singing this guy's praises, 5 stars across the board. So before we get too lost in the hype, we got to ask, what are we even dealing with here? What is a compounding pharmacy? And what makes this one so special?
Compounding pharmacies, they're a different beast altogether. Not your average CVS, that's for sure. They specialize in, you could say, tailor-made medications. Each one's custom, made for the individual's needs.
No kidding. So none of that one-size-fits-all business?
Nope, not here. They handle those specific cases, where you need a unique dosage or something that's not commercially available. Could be pricier, but hey, that
What?
personalized touch. Might explain the rave reviews, folks driving the extra mile, all that.
Okay, so that's compounding. Makes sense. But there's this other thing popping up in the reviews: bioidentical hormones. What's the deal with those, and what's Dr. Nkwenti's connection?
Now, this is where things get really interesting. See, bioidentical hormones, they're different from the synthetic stuff. Chemically speaking, they're identical to what your body produces naturally.
Oh, so it's like they've got the VIP pass, no need to wait in line, they already belong.
Exactly. And from the looks of it, Dr. Nkwenti is a big proponent of these, using them for all sorts of things: fatigue, weight, low libido, even thinks they can combat aging.
Oh, hold on. That's a pretty big claim. But before we go down that rabbit hole, what were people actually saying about his methods? In the reviews, I mean.
Well, a few themes kept popping up: knowledgeable, patient, passionate. Those are common words used to describe Dr. Nkwenti. Like, there's this one review, Teresa M., she raved about how he took the time to explain everything, all about bioidentical hormones, how they could work for her specific situation, said she finally felt heard, understood. Lots of reviewers echoed that sentiment, actually.
Interesting. Sounds like it's not just about the medication itself, but the way he communicates, the whole personalized approach.
You're picking up on something, all right. Patient education, empowerment, that's clearly important to him. Not just handing out pills, he's giving them knowledge, helping them understand their own bodies.
Wow, so he's treating the whole person, not just throwing a Band-Aid on the symptoms.
Now you're getting it. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Turns out Dr. Nkwenti isn't just a pharmacist, he's also a published author.
Hold up, a pharmacist who writes books. Okay, now I'm really hooked. What kind of books are we talking here?
His most popular one is called The Role of Natural Bioidentical Hormones in Fighting Aging and Chronic Dysfunction. Bit of a mouthful, I know, but it really highlights his whole philosophy.
No kidding. So we've got a compounding pharmacist who's all about bioidentical hormones. AD, he writes about them. This Dr. Nkwenti sounds like quite the character, but let's take a closer look at this book, see what people are saying. So we've got this pharmacy, people are going nuts for it, a pharmacist who's like this bioidentical hormone evangelist, and now a book too. What's so fascinating about the book itself?
It's funny you say fascinating. That word pops up a lot in the reviews. Readers are saying this book is packed with info. And I mean packed. He doesn't just scratch the surface. He goes deep into the science behind bioidentical hormones, the different types, how they affect everything.
Makes sense, I guess. If he's tackling aging and chronic dysfunction, like the title says, that's some complex stuff. But is it all like medical jargon? Can a regular person understand it?
That's the thing. Even though the topic's complex, reviewers keep praising his writing style. They find it really engaging, surprisingly easy to read.
It's not a boring textbook, then.
Nope, not at all. Lots of readers, even those who aren't doctors or scientists, said he uses analogies, real-life examples, like you're having a chat with a friend who just happens to be a hormone guru.
Okay, now you've got me wanting to pick up this book. So, accessible writing, deep dive into the science. What else? Any big aha moments people are mentioning?
One thing that comes up a lot is this idea of estrogen dominance. Dr. Nkwenti believes it's super common, but often missed, and it can lead to a bunch of different health problems.
Estrogen dominance, that's a new one on me. And bioidentical hormones can help with that, he claims.
That's a big part of his argument, yeah. He says synthetic hormones, while they have their place, can mess with your body's natural balance. and that can lead to estrogen dominance.
So it's like going for a natural fix instead of potentially upsetting the apple cart with synthetics.
That's the general idea. But got to add a disclaimer here. We're working with a lot of claims.
Mhm.
Important to take it all with a grain of salt. Do your own research.
Totally, totally. We're not here to tell anyone what to do, just looking at what the sources say. Speaking of different viewpoints, were there any negative reviews of the book, or was it all sunshine and roses?
The vast majority were positive for sure, but there were a few critics. Some found it a bit technical in places, others wanted more concrete treatment plans.
I can see that. Even if you try to make things easy to understand, some medical stuff is just complicated. And yeah, giving specific treatments in a book could be risky, right? Hormone therapy is supposed to be all about individual needs.
You hit the nail on the head. Big difference between providing information and giving medical advice. The book's a great starting point, but it shouldn't replace talking to your own doctor, you know?
So true. Easy to get caught up in the hype, but at the end of the day, we're responsible for our own health. And that means getting advice tailored to us.
Couldn't agree more. Knowledge is great, but knowing when to loop in a professional, that's key.
So we've got Dr. Nkwenti, clearly passionate about this stuff, a pharmacy with glowing reviews, a book diving deep into this whole hormone world. But what does it all mean for the average person? What's the takeaway?
That's the big question on it. I think the coolest thing about all this is it makes us think differently about health.
Yeah.
Challenges that whole one-size-fits-all thing, encourages us to think about personalized medicine, especially with something as powerful as hormones.
Yeah, like a whole new way of looking at things. Instead of just masking symptoms, maybe it's about understanding those underlying imbalances.
And maybe, just maybe, those hormones are playing a bigger role than we ever realized.
Now, wouldn't that be something?
It certainly would. And that's what makes this whole deep dive so interesting. It's not just about one doctor or one pharmacy. It's about asking those bigger questions, considering those alternative approaches. Who knows what we might discover?
Exactly. And those discoveries could lead to a healthier, happier you, which, let's be real, is what we all want. All right, we're about to wrap up this deep dive, but before we do, any last thoughts?
If you're intrigued by what you've heard today, don't let that feeling fade. Do your own digging, ask those tough questions, find a healthcare provider who gets you. Your health journey is your own, and it's worth fighting for.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for listening, everyone, and until next time, stay curious.
It's like we're peeking behind the curtain, right? Like there's this whole other side to health we haven't even considered.
It's definitely eye-opening, but like with any big discovery, there's that element of, okay, what's the catch?
Exactly. So let's talk about that. In all this research, all these glowing reviews, was there anything about potential downsides? Risks of bioidentical hormones? You know, that's the thing. The stuff you sent, it was pretty light on the whole risk assessment side.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, Dr. Nkwenti mentions it, of course.
Yeah.
Says hormone therapy should always be tailored to the individual. You got to have a doctor monitoring you. But he doesn't go into detail about side effects or anything like that.
Huh. Interesting. You'd think with how thorough the book seems to be, he'd cover that too.
Right. It's almost like he's so gung-ho about the benefits, he kind of skips over the potential downsides.
Maybe he didn't want to scare people off. Like he believes in it so much, he doesn't want to plant those seeds of doubt.
Could be. But look, let's be real. There are always risks with hormone therapy. Any kind. Even bioidentical.
Right. It's not a miracle cure.
Exactly. Everyone reacts differently. What works for one person might not for another.
That's why that whole personalized approach is so important, like you were saying before.
Exactly. You need a doctor who gets that, who'll work with you to find that sweet spot. Maximize the good, minimize the bad.
It's like a team effort then. Not just you're going rogue with some pills you found online.
Absolutely not. Careful monitoring, adjusting dosages, open communication with your doctor, it all matters.
Makes you wonder, though, if these bioidentical hormones are potentially so great, more like what our bodies naturally produce, why aren't they more common?
Ah, the million-dollar question. Honestly,
Yeah.
probably a bunch of reasons. Big pharma pushing synthetics, doctors not knowing enough about it.
And there's still research being done, right? It's not like we know everything about bioidentical hormones.
Exactly. It's still a bit of a gray area, which makes it harder to get that mainstream acceptance.
So we need more research, more awareness, and maybe even a change in how we think about healthcare as a whole.
100%. And that's what I find so fascinating about all this. It's not just about some new pill or treatment.
Yeah.
It's about questioning things, looking for alternatives, really taking control of your own health.
So well said. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. Pharmaprodia, Dr. Nkwenti, this whole world of bioidentical hormones. As we wrap up, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from this deep dive?
Be your own advocate, seriously. Don't be afraid to ask questions, do your research, find a healthcare provider who listens and understands. Your health is your responsibility, and you deserve to be informed.
Couldn't agree more. If this conversation sparked your curiosity, don't let it go. Keep digging, keep asking questions, and most importantly, keep searching for those answers that resonate with you. Because who knows, maybe the key to feeling your best lies in understanding the incredible power of your own hormones. Thanks for listening, everyone, and until next time, stay curious.